Hello, Mrs. Johnson. I'm glad you could come.
Well, you said it might help find who could kill Mr. Malloy.
Then you agree with me that he was killed?
I do. That was no accidental death the way they would have you believe.
The way who would have you believe?
Everyone, the sheriff, the doctor. They think if they could write this off as an accidental death, then they could close the case and no harm done.
You think that they would like that?
Of course. If they investigated with half the sense the good Lord gave them, they might turn up something embarrassing to certain important people in this town.
There's only one important family in this town. You must mean the Collins family.
Yes.
Tell me, Mrs. Johnson, did Mr. Malloy ever have any misunderstanding with any of them? With Roger in particular?
Well, he thought the world of Mrs. Stoddard. He didn't have much use for Roger.
Isn't that strange? I don't have much use for Roger either. Mrs. Johnson, between us, maybe we can do something about it. Sit down, Mrs. Johnson. You were Bill Malloy's housekeeper for a good many years, weren't you?
I was.
You were very fond of him, weren't you?
I guess everyone in town knew that, except possibly Mr. Malloy. He didn't know it. Guess because he didn't want to.
How would you like to help me trap the person who killed Mr. Malloy?
I'd like nothing better.
Good. Now let's review what we know.
Well, there's only one thing that I know, and that is Mr. Malloy is dead.
No, you may know a lot more than you think you do. For example, you know that he got a telephone call at 10:30 that evening, right?
Yes, but I don't have any idea who it was. Does it matter?
Well, it might. If someone was trying to lure him out of the house to kill him.
Oh, I never dreamed.
Of course not. How could you? Now, you say he had no enemies.
Well, Mr. Malloy had a gruff way about him, but he was a good man. He never harmed anyone in his life.
Perhaps he was going to harm someone.
Not knowingly. He wouldn't harm anyone.
Even if it was to help Elizabeth Stoddard?
Oh, her. Well, yes. If it was to help her, I guess he would have done almost anything.
And if someone wanted to prevent that from happening?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yes. All right, now. We know that he was alive and well when you left the house. What time was that?
Not more than 5 minutes after the phone call.
And he was dead at 10:45. You know that you might have walked right past the killer. He might have even been waiting outside the house for you to leave.
Oh, no. I can't believe that.
It had to be. He died at 10:45. At least his watch was broken then.
He loved that watch. It was given to him by his father. It seems a silly thing to cry over a broken watch when the man himself was broken, killed, thrown into the sea to disappear.
But he didn't disappear. He was washed ashore at midnight at the base of Widow's Hill at Collinwood.
I think he was seeking out his murderer. I believe in signs and omens, and I think the body of Bill Malloy was even then trying to point a finger of suspicion at his killer. He was searching for Roger Collins.
Mr. Collins? Mr. Collins, you sent for me?
Yes, I sent for you.
Oh, Carolyn, I thought you were Roger.
I'm not.
Yes, I know. I mean, I thought Roger was in here.
I don't even look like him.
Now, listen, all I know is that somebody said I was wanted in Mr. Collins' office.
You were. You are.
Good. Now, I think you're a lot prettier than he is anyway.
I thought maybe you would like to take the rest of the day off.
Oh, listen, I'd love to. But I can't.
Why can't you?
You may not believe this, but I do have a job here.
Can't they get along without you for one day?
Yeah, they did yesterday. I don't want them ever to find out how easy it is.
I could fix it with Uncle Roger.
Oh, you do that. You just try to do that, and I promise I'll break your neck. Listen, I get razzed enough around here with the other guys knowing that you're my girl.
Who told them I was?
I did.
Joe, I need help.
Well, what's wrong?
I'd like you to take me to lunch.
I thought I was going to take you to dinner.
Well, let's just make it an early dinner. Like now.
Why, honey, what is it?
It's Burke Devlin.
Burke, what's he got to do with this?
I saw him earlier this morning, and he was... Well, he said some things I just couldn't stand.
About what?
Oh, what difference does it make, Joe? Can't we just go somewhere and forget about
Listen,
Burke?
what did Burke say to upset you?
I told you it doesn't matter.
Well, it does to me now. Come on, what did he say?
I'm sorry I mentioned it. Can't you just forget about
No,
it?
I can. Now, sweetheart, you got me all upset, and I want to know what's...
I'll be perfectly honest with you, Mrs. Johnson. I don't know whether Bill Malloy was so concerned on whether I was innocent of that crime I'd been convicted of, or else he just wanted to stop my probing.
Oh, he was an honest man. He would have wanted the truth to come out.
Let's say I was doing more than just probing. Let's say I had a plan to ruin the Cullen Enterprises.
Oh, well, no. Mr. Malloy would never have stood for that. Like I said, that was his whole life.
So, to protect that, he was willing to sacrifice Roger Collins. Yes, Mrs. Johnson. That's exactly what Bill Malloy was doing. He said if he could prove that I was innocent of that manslaughter charge, would I drop my vendetta with the Collins family?
And Roger Collins was guilty.
Mr. Malloy said he could prove it. That's why he set up that meeting between Collins and myself and Sam Evans.
What'd Sam Evans have to do with it?
Well, that's what I don't know. That's what we've got to find out.
We? How can I help you?
Well, first of all, I have to know if you're willing to help.
Or do you doubt it? And I have no love for any of that family.
Then you would be willing to help me with a slight conspiracy.
I don't understand.
Well, suppose we could find a way of easing you into Collinwood.
Into Collinwood? How in the world would you do that?
I don't know how. But if you were up there, it would be very easy for you to hear things that I would never hear, and to see things. And then we could put our knowledge together and come up with something.
Mr. Devlin, I don't know exactly what you have in mind, but I'll tell you one thing for sure. I'll do anything in the world to help you avenge Mr. Malloy's death.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Are you sure you don't want to take the rest of the day off and go somewhere with me?
Oh, I'm sure that's exactly what I'd like to do. But I'm also sure it's what I can't do.
Why not? My mother owns the company.
All right. Now, hold on. Just wait a minute. The real reason that you're so anxious for my questionable company is that you had a fight with Burke Devlin, right?
Wrong. At least partially wrong.
All right, come on, let's have it. What did he say that was so horrible?
He practically accused Uncle Roger of having something to do with Mr. Malloy's death.
What?
Burke has it in the back of his head that Mr. Malloy was going to have this big meeting that would prove Burke was not driving that car that killed somebody 10 years ago.
But if Burke is innocent, that means your Uncle Roger would have to be guilty.
Joe, why do you think I'm so upset?
Well, you don't have to be. Burke must be lying, that's all.
But what for? Why is he doing it?
Revenge?
For what?
Well, Burke was once sort of engaged to be married to Laura.
Roger's wife.
Yep. Everything was just great until she met Roger, and then she had a chance to compare the two. Well, Burke didn't have anything to offer, and Roger had everything. So she picked him. You can't blame her.
And you think Burke has resented that all these years?
Well, why not? I would. Now, look, suppose you and I were engaged to be married, right? And everything is going along just great. And all of a sudden, this guy comes along with all the money in the world, and he's kind of sophisticated compared to good old easygoing Joe. So you get carried away with this guy, and where does that leave me? Out in the cold, twiddling my thumbs. You think I wouldn't resent that?
A second ago, you said you wouldn't blame the girl.
Well, it's a hypothetical case we're talking about. All I mean is that I just think that maybe Mr. Burke Devlin is something less than perfect.
All right, I agree. He's less than perfect. So why don't you be less than perfect, too?
Me? You're kidding.
Take the rest of the day off. We'll drive out to the beach and stare at the sand fiddlers.
Carolyn, the minute I walk out that door, that's when somebody's going to want me for something around here.
What about me, Joe? I want you for something right now.
What?
I want you to take me out to the beach, where we can sit and listen to the waves and forget all about Burke Devlin.
You sure you want to forget about it?
Mrs. Johnson, Roger had the strongest motive for killing Bill Malloy. And if that meeting was set up to prove my innocence, it had to prove Roger's guilt. But we've got a problem. Vicki Winters says Roger didn't leave the house until 10 minutes of 11, so he couldn't have done it.
And she's lying.
Why should she lie? I don't think she's overly fond of Roger.
Well, she's his son's tutor, and maybe she thinks it's important to keep her job.
Yes, I know it's important to her. At least she thinks it's important.
So she conveniently gives Roger the alibi he needs.
I don't like to think it happened that way.
You like this girl?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Devlin, if you're going to bring Mr. Malloy's murderer to justice, you can't let personal feelings enter in.
All right, we'll have to assume that Vicki was lying, or at least mistaken about the time Roger left the house. Because I think he left in time to kill Bill Malloy and then get to the meeting.
You mean he actually appeared at the meeting?
Behaved perfectly naturally. Even asked about Bill, was concerned about him.
Oh, sure he was. Because he knew he'd already killed him. He knew Mr. Malloy's body couldn't raise up and point a finger of suspicion at him. That's exactly what Mr. Malloy did, isn't it?
Yes, the body was found at Collinwood.
Who was the first person to find the body?
I believe it was Miss Winters.
There, you see? That ties them together.
Yeah, Larry. Yeah, I'd do the same for you. No, I'll even fill in for you twice next week. How's that? What? Well, why not? Oh, okay, forget it. You won't do it. Look. We'd planned on dinner tonight. Why don't we just leave it at that, huh?
Because... Oh, because anything. Maybe I'm just bored. Aren't you going to answer it?
It's your uncle's phone, not mine.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Hello, this is Carolyn Stoddard. Yes, he is. For you.
Yeah? Oh, yes, sir, yeah. No, I was just waiting for Mr. Collins to come back. See if there was anything he wanted me to do. No, sir. Yeah, right away. See how important I am? Can't do without me.
Who was that? I'll ask him myself.
No!
Don't you want to go somewhere with me?
Yes, I do. To dinner. Right now, I gotta get back to work.
I think you're acting like an idiot.
Yeah, but I'm an idiot with a job. Look, Maybe I can finish up in a hurry. Why don't you wait right here?
I'm tired of waiting. For anything.
Now, don't go away sore.
I'm not sore. Oh, I don't know what I am. Don't worry about me, Joe. I'll find something to do.
Joe Haskell. Yes, sir. Yeah, right away.
What I want you to do is see if you can't get a job at Collinwood.
Well, that won't be easy. They haven't had any help there in 18 years, excepting Matthew Morgan.
Then there's time they had some. Someone like you, Mrs. Johnson. Naturally, the suggestion can't come from me. They'd start to suspect.
Well, everyone in Collinsport knows it's useless to apply.
We've got to find a way of placing you in Collinwood. Who is it?
Carolyn's daughter. Can I talk to you, Burke?
Just a minute. Come in, Vicky. Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's all right. I'm used to waiting.
Well, what can I do for you?
Well, I told you I was going to talk to Uncle Roger about the things you said.
Well, did you talk to him?
Yes. He denied everything.
No.
Please don't make fun of me, Burke. I'm mixed up enough as it is. There must be some other way that accident happened. Some way you've never even thought about.
Well, if there is, I wish you would let me know.
Why do you have to be so stubborn?
Stubborn? I think I've been very patient. I was patient for 5 years in prison and then 5 years later.
It's all so long ago.
Bill Malloy's death wasn't a long time ago.
Now you're just being mean. Uncle Roger could no more have killed Mr. Malloy than I could. Do you mind if I get a drink of water?
Carolyn! That place is an awful mess. I'll get it for you.
Thank you.
Here you are, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Maybe I was a little hasty about that part of it. Seemed so logical.
You just don't know Uncle Roger the way I do.
No, and you don't know him the way I do. But I must admit I did jump the gun. You see, Carolyn, I have a lot on my mind.
Yes, I know you have.
Bill Malloy's death struck me harder than most people. I guess because he was my only real friend. I guess the only other person it affected as much was Mrs. Johnson.
His housekeeper?
Of course. She's completely at a loss as what to do with herself. She really needs a job.
You mean she's broke?
No. If it were only the money, I could let her have it. She needs a job to take her mind off her loss.
What can she do?
Well, Bill Malloy says she's one of the greatest housekeepers in the world. He swore by her.
I guess there aren't too many jobs like that around here.
Yes, it's a shame.
Wouldn't it be great if... No, Mother'd never go for it.
What?
If Mrs. Johnson could come up to Collinwood.
Now, why didn't I think of that? Because if I had, you would say I was getting suspicious.
The more I think about it, the better I like the idea. Do you think she would accept?
All we can do is ask her.
I'll talk to Mother about it. Oh, I feel so much better just thinking I may be able to do something nice for somebody for a change.
Don't give yourself a hard time, Carolyn. You do everybody a favor just by walking around and letting them look at you.
Is that a compliment?
The best I could do on the spur of the moment.
Thank you. I better go home now.
I'm sorry to hide you in here like that. I think it's better that no one knows any connection between us.
Do you think the girl's involved?
No. But she lives at Collinwood. Anyone at Collinwood is fair game.
Even the girl?
Anyone.
Stay tuned for Where the Action Is next on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production. Dark Shadows, number 70, VTR 92366, Air 93066, take 1.
My name is Victoria Winters. Collinwood has had 130 years of brooding